Center Live today. We have a very special guest coming to us from New York City, where I suspect that they're probably snowed in right now. I want to take a minute and introduce you to my friend Ben Rosenblum, who is going to be coming here on February 11th for a jazz concert at 5:30. It will be outdoors, under the stars, very safe, socially distanced. We were very fortunate to have Ben come and perform with his jazz trio last year, and we are lucky that he is coming again. Hi, Ben. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's wonderful to join you, and I'm so excited to come perform.
Well, we are excited to have you. We love having live music here at the Marco Island Center for the Arts as part of our musical interlude series, and it is truly a privilege to bring somebody of your caliber here to perform for our Art Center family and friends. Now, who are you going to be touring with this time? Who are the other members of your ensemble?
It's a great question. So last time I came to Marco Island Center for the Arts, I came with a wonderful bass player named Dan Shimolinski, who's since been back, and also with a longtime collaborator, one of my best friends, one of my favorite musicians, Ben Zweig on drums. And Ben will be joining me again. I think he's done every tour with me that I've been on for the past 4 years. So, I don't know what I would do without him. This time, we're also going to be joined by a special guest on bass. His name is Eduardo Bello. It's a very close friend, and he's Brazilian, and somebody that I've performed with in New York for a number of years, but more recently I've gotten to spend more time with because he's lived in the neighborhood during the pandemic, and it's nice to have friends nearby, in your bubble. So we've been learning a lot of new material together, both in the Brazilian music world and in the jazz music world. He's a jazz bassist primarily, but because he's from Brazil, he knows so much about all those styles, which if any of you saw my performance last year, I love Brazilian music. I'm sure I performed at least a couple Brazilian songs then. And you'll probably also remember that in addition to piano, I also played accordion last year, and I will be doing more of that, especially in the outdoor setting. I think you'll hear a fair amount of accordion, probably in ways that will be very surprising and different, and maybe you can reimagine what the instrument is.
I agree. It was not at all what I had expected or what I've come to know as an accordion. Yes, because we are outside, I want to give a big shout out to our board member, Ken Stroud, and the Wesley Methodist Church here on Marco Island, who have been so kind and are going to lend us a keyboard while we have a piano in the Art Center. The piano tuner would probably absolutely be miserable with me if we tried to move it outside, and we wanted to provide Ben with the best that we could. I know I wish we could fly in a baby grand for you, because that's really the level at which you play. Can you tell? So we're going to be looking at some things on the accordion. We're going to see some Brazilian music. In terms of jazz, because that's really been a sweet spot for our audiences, what can people expect? Because I know last year when you came, you performed here, but you also performed up in Naples, where there were a few more standards that were part of the repertoire. What can people expect? Give them a little taste of what they might be hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we're all jazz musicians, and whatever we play, though we love to do an eclectic repertoire, we're always going to be approaching it from the lens of jazz improvisation and taking all of these songs as vehicles for exploration. So in that sense, we love to perform material that people might be familiar with. I think last time we came, we performed Somewhere from West Side Story, the Leonard Bernstein. I've been recently working on an arrangement of Can't Help Falling in Love. That's one of my favorite songs. We love performing these standards that people know, so that then when we take it in different directions that are even surprising to us, people can experience the magic of what improvisation is and say, okay, here's a song that I know and I love, and now it's going in these directions that I've never heard and never imagined before. I think that's what's at the heart of what we do. And even there might be some very standardy jazz standards like I don't know, Misty, Fly Me to the Moon, If I Were a Bell. It could be anything like that. But you might also hear something that you recognize from the pop world or from a movie or from some kind of world music tradition. So, and then you'll hear some original compositions as well. I always love to include a couple of those. Recently, I just released an album last year, which was Sextet, where I played a little more accordion in addition to piano, but there was also guitar and saxophone and bass clarinet and trumpet and some guests. And that was almost all original compositions. So the original music is on my mind, and I've been inspired to write because of that. So you might hear a composition that's never been performed before. Sometimes when I have new original compositions that don't have titles yet, I ask the audience to help me come up with a title. So
Our audience was very much like that. That's very, very, very engaging. So Ben, let's talk a little bit about sort of your journey as a musician, because you are so accomplished for somebody of well, young years, certainly compared to me. Tell us a little bit about how it was that you knew this was what you were going to pursue and the steps along the way to get you to where you are now.
absolutely. So I started piano at a very young age. When I was around 5 years old, my mom had gotten a piano for my dad as a gift, and my dad played kind of recreationally after work. But once the piano came into the house, I think I just was mystified by it and just took to it immediately. And so I started studying piano at a young age. And at first, it was classical music, as most people start with. At some point, my mom, who is a lifelong jazz fan and whose sister, my aunt, is a jazz singer, she was listening to me play, and she heard in my playing that I she always says that my time, I feel when I played the classical music reminded her of jazz. She thought that the way I played would be more suited to this jazz genre. And I always loved sitting down at the piano and just playing, even before I started studying jazz. And before I knew what improvisation was, or that one could study and learn how to improvise. So my mom gave me a Keith Jarrett record and a McCoy Tyner record, and I kind of was immediately entranced by it and started studying jazz. And then growing up in New York City, which is one of the capitals of jazz in the world, I got to hear all of these incredible musicians, many of whom are no longer with us. People like Hank Jones and Mulgrew Miller and Cedar Walton, and growing up, getting to go to a jazz club when you're in high school and seeing the best musicians in the world is a constant source of inspiration. So I started getting very serious about practicing the piano, and I even took a year off before going to college just to get more seriously engaged with the fundamentals of jazz and of improvisation. And eventually, I got to study with some really beautiful teachers, a young Israeli jazz pianist named Roy Asaf when I was growing up. And then when I got to college, some world famous musicians like Bruce Barth on piano at Columbia and Mr. Frank Kimbrough at Juilliard, who sadly recently passed away just a couple months ago. So that was a huge loss. But both Bruce and Frank were so instrumental. Bruce was much more about like the feel of the music, keeping great swing feel, just making it groove. Frank was all about this exploration harmonically, just really getting your emotions out onto the piano and making the music about your life and how you live. And I think both of them have both of those elements, but that's what they emphasized in their lessons. So between the two, I feel like I got such a rounded appreciation. And then through college, I got to perform with some wonderful older masters of the music. I was introduced by my first teacher, Roy, to a drummer, Winard Harper, who used to play with Dexter Gordon, an amazing drummer, and eventually to a singer named Deborah Davis, who's still a very close mentor of mine. She introduced me to a bassist, Curtis Lundy, who's on my first record. He used to play with Betty Carter. I still have been playing with Curtis regularly, even through the pandemic in New Jersey. And so these experiences of getting to play with older jazz musicians, jazz is really an oral tradition. It's passed down by having experiences with the masters, whether on your own instrument through lessons or playing with them. You kind of absorb the experiences that they've had throughout their lives. So that is a short history of my jazz piano experience, and then sometime late in college, I started getting more serious about the accordion.
Yeah, how did you pick this up? I mean, that's, piano I understand, and I just would interject that obviously there's a great deal of talent there because it's quite an accomplishment to have been studying at both Columbia and Juilliard. So bravo to you.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, accordion, I remember when I first, when we first connected and I was looking at your bio and accordion stuck out because it wasn't an instrument that I generally think about people picking up and playing. It's certainly somebody with your immense talent as a jazz pianist, a composer, it seemed sort of out there. So how did that come about?
Yeah, the accordion, I think it's the most misunderstood instrument in America. But like in most of the countries in the world, the accordion is at the heart of the music traditions, whether the folk music or in some countries, even the pop music traditions, the accordion is very central. So I first heard the accordion in a group led by Maria Schneider, a great big band composer, and she incorporated the accordion. Of course, the accordion was one of 18 instruments on stage, but when it sung out, it was so delicate and so melodic and like a voice. And it was very different than what I associate the accordion with, which I guess growing up in New York City would be mariachi bands and things like that, which is also beautiful music, by the way. But, I think it's the accordion's often associated with more aggressive kind of party folk music, and it really is a very delicate instrument. I think of it as a kind of acoustic synthesizer, like the keyboard, but all acoustic, because you have these different switches, kind of like an organ, and you can create very different sounds depending on the switch you use. Something very forceful or something very delicate or kind of everything in between. So I was gifted an accordion by my brother after that experience. We went to that concert together and I expressed the accordion's so cool. And I started playing around with it, and over time I became more and more something I was teaching myself, to the point where some of my friends in the music world started learning that I had an accordion and played. And there's this wonderful Croatian singer who I still perform with named Astrid Puljanic. And in Croatia, accordion is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. So we were friends. We had played a couple gigs together. I had played a lot with her now husband, a bass player, and in a different group. So when she was starting her own group, she said, I really want an accordionist. I know you play accordion a little bit. Why don't you play accordion in my band? I said, okay, I'll try. She said, well, we have a weekly gig starting this Thursday. I said, okay. So that was kind of the, kick that I needed to say, well, if I'm going to be playing this instrument every week for people who are paying to come see us, then I better learn this instrument. And the experience of the accordion has kind of been experience after experience like this, where I start playing in a certain context and I get a bit better and I learn about that music. I took some lessons with an incredible Brazilian accordionist named Vitor Gonçalves, and that's kind of my deep love of Brazilian music stems from that. But I would do this, and then he would say, "Oh, I need an accordionist to sub for me on this musette gig," and then I would start playing French musette for a few months, and then somebody else would say, "Oh, I need an accordionist to be able to play klezmer music on this." Okay, we're starting to play klezmer music, and then in December 2019, or all of the fall 2019, Vitor was playing for Fiddler on the Roof off Broadway, the accordion chair, and he needed somebody to sub for him. So I started playing the accordion part in Fiddler on the Roof. And then once that was over, the most recent thing is we've been playing every Sunday outside forró music, which is a northern Brazilian dance music, and I've had to learn the repertoire of that world as well. So every experience of accordion is kind of just saying yes and then learning, and it's really over time I felt like I can express my what I want to say on the instrument more and more the same way I feel on the piano. So it's kind of just becoming as integral a part of my life as the piano is.
Wow, that is, it's amazing, as is the scope and breadth of your limitless talent, Ben. It is hard to believe just how much you can learn, do, and perform with such expertise, it is such a gift to have the talent you have, and we are so grateful that you are going to come and share that with us here at the Marco Island Center for the Arts. I know I was literally dazzled last year when I heard you perform. Again, you can watch people's YouTubes. It's wonderful, and I know during lockdown it's a way we've all stayed connected. I mean, this is a virtual experience, but to listen to Ben play live is something you will always remember. I still, as I said, remember when you were here. I remember, the next day coming up to see you guys in Naples because I had to get more of it. It is just amazing. It's going to be wonderful here outside under the stars at the Marco Island Center for the Arts on February 11th at 5:30. We have tickets available. You can give us a call at 239-394-4221, or you can go on our website at www.marcoislandart.org. Ben, I have one last question for you. Now, you've told us about a lot of people you've studied with, people you've played with. Obviously, you have influences coming from all over the world, but what is there, beyond what you've already told us, someone or something that has been really an inspiration for you, absolutely instrumental in taking your career to where it is now?
Oh, I mean,
So many, I know.
Yeah, there are so many, and of course, I've mentioned a lot of the people who have been the most instrumental in kind of taking me to the next step at every step of the way, and I'm still really grateful to a lot of people who are continuing to push me, and that's why we do the music, because it's a lifelong experience and commitment. There's never a point where we get to a certain level and we say, okay, we're satisfied with where we're at. We don't have to improve or get any better. It's always a constant, especially in New York, where I get to hear people who are even younger than me doing things that I've never heard before and can't imagine. And then also hear the masters, there are still some with us like Barry Harris or George Cables, or there are a lot of older musicians that every time you go here, you're just blown away by them still. I was just listening to the album that Jimmy Heath released right before he passed at 91 years old. And he was playing the saxophone at 91, maybe more beautifully than anything I've ever heard. And that's the inspiration for me. It's, so many individuals, but also just this collective idea that you can dedicate your life to this one thing and continually be rewarded, be able to meet people, to travel all over the world, to connect with people across any kinds of divides or boundaries, and to be able to have a life that's completely full just by dedicating yourself to being a little bit better musically and personally every day. That's my main inspiration.
And that is absolutely beautiful. It's something here at the Marco Island Center for the Arts that we are always sharing with our stakeholders, that indeed, a life lived in an artful way, the pursuit of art, whether it's visual arts or performing arts, really puts us in touch with our sense of humanity, makes us lifelong learners, and art and culture is absolutely instrumental to who and what we are, creating connections, offering up opportunities for dialogue. So I absolutely hear what you're saying and totally agree. And it's so wonderful that your talents have aligned in a way that you can take this and bring joy to yourself and to all of those you perform for. So we are really, really excited. Again, everybody, remember, you want to call and get your tickets or go on our website, www.marcoislandart.org, or give us a call, 239-394-4221. I want to let you know a few other things that are going to be coming up, because we are always very busy here at the Marco Island Center for the Arts, although very careful, because your health and well-being and safety is of the utmost importance to us. But we have a new event that we just added to our calendar, something very different. On February 18th at 5:30 out in our courtyard, we're going to have an open mic night. This just came about. We are really excited, so come check it out. Just $10. You can call and reserve a spot or just pay at the door, but come see what we've got to offer, because it's a program that we'd like to continue here. And last but not least, also relatively new and just up on our website, Marco Island Center for the Arts will hold its 8th annual golf tournament at the Island Country Club on Sunday, March 7th, 2001. It's going to be an afternoon registration at 12:30, and shotgun will go off at 1:30. We encourage our golfers to join us. As you know, it has been a hard year for those of us in small business, non-for-profits, and let's face it, Ben, it's been a hard year for those of us in the arts. Our golf tournament is a fundraiser, and it's a way that you can get out, have a wonderful time with your friends, meet some new friends, and at the same time support the Marco Island Center for the Arts. We've had 50 years of bringing art to Marco and beyond, and we are looking forward to 50 more and 50 after that, and on and on and on, because guess what? The future starts today, and you can ensure that Marco Island Center for the Arts is here next year, 5 years from now, and well on into the future. Ben, I want to thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us. I'm so excited. I can't wait for you to get here. We are really looking forward to seeing you, and I know our audience will too. To our friends out there, we wish you well. Please know, whether you're here on Marco or you're tuning in from someplace else, that you are always part of our art family. And what are we? Well, we are your art home.